This presentation is over the Arab and Israeli conflict by Grace Wolf. The key historical events include that in 1947, the United Nations voted to partition the Britain Mandate of Palestine into a Jewish and Arab state. It also called that Jerusalem would be an international city. War between the Jewish and Arabs in Palestine broke out immediately. In 1948, Israel declared independence, and in 1967, Israel captured the entire city of Jerusalem, allowing access to Muslims, Christians, and Jews. Also, in 1967, Israel is in control of the West Bank and Gaza Strip. This is a series of ongoing military conflicts between Israeli forces and various Arab forces. The map shows important territories like Israel, the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, Jerusalem, and surrounding nations that are impacted as the conflict prevails. Arab beliefs. This is a mix of polytheism, Christianity, Judaism, and Iranian religions. It is determined by cultural characteristics. Arab countries have a rich diversity of ethnic, linguistic, and religious communities. Located in the Arabian geography, Saudi Arabia is the country with the highest oil reserves in the world. Personal hygiene is spiritually and physically important. Despite the respect shown toward women in the Arabic culture, women cannot benefit from rights that men have in society. Family is at the heart of honor, devotion, and reputation. The first picture shows Christians and Muslims protecting Israel's bombing of Gaza. It is important to remember that Arab is not a certain race or ethnicity. It refers to the people living in the Arabic world or in the Middle Eastern countries. The map shows Arab countries, and Israel is a tiny island in the sea of Arab countries. Israeli beliefs. Reflected in their religious beliefs and practices, including observance of the Sabbath. They recite prayers 3 times a day and have several kinds of religious clothing. Jerusalem, as pictured on the right, is the capital of Israel. It has been the focus of extensive archaeological activity. Main concerns. Palestinian people rejected the plan by Arab nations and instead declared war against Israel rather than accepting peace. Security is a main concern for Israel. To Palestinians, security means an end to foreign military occupation and keeping Israel defensible against foreign armies. The pictures show modern-day current events in the Arab-Israeli conflict. One-state solution. This would create a democratic, secular state in which both Israeli Jews and Palestinian Arabs will live as citizens with equal rights. Populations would be intertwined, granting citizenship to all Palestinians would render Jews a minority and eliminate the world's only Jewish state. The map shows the one-state solution and the statistics of citizenship. This would consist of merging Israel, the West Bank, and the Gaza Strip into one country, creating a single democratic country. This would also involve Israel annexing the West Bank, forcing out Palestinians. The West Bank is land east of Israel, home to 3 million Palestinians. A Gaza Islamist group, Hamas, took over Gaza, promoting a blockade of the flow of commercial goods, and also fired thousands of rockets from the territory. Arab Muslims would outnumber Jews, resulting in Israel becoming a Jewish state. This would establish an independent Palestinian state alongside Israel. Borders. It would be difficult to establish land as settlements are expanding, such as the West Bank. Jerusalem, both sides consider as their capital and center of religious worship and cultural heritage. Jewish, Muslim, and Christian holy sites are on top of each other, making it hard to draw a line. Refugees. Large numbers of Palestinians fled to Israel during the 1948 war. Too many returnees would result in Israel's status as both Jewish and a democratic state. 67 borders. In 2011, President Obama said, "The borders of Israel and Palestine should be based on the 1967 lines with mutually agreed swaps." Drawing along the 1967 border leaves thousands of Israelis who live in the West Bank settlements displaced on the Palestinian side. Today, descendants from the 1946 Arab-Israeli War are displaced in refugee camps around the region. The map is showing the division based on the pre-1967 borders of Israel and Palestine. Other possible solutions: confederation. Each side would have their own government, but would work together on resources, security, and economic issues. Autonomy plus. Palestinians would hold own elections and maintain own schools and services. They would not control their own borders, and there would be no military. Israel would annex the West Bank territory under its own control. Federation applies to Israel law to entire West Bank and gives full citizenship and voting rights to all Palestinians living there. However, the leftover country would be divided into smaller provinces to maintain a Jewish political majority. Expulsion. Expel or transfer Palestinians from the entire West Bank. United States goals include securing vital energy resources, stabbing off Soviet and Iranian influence, ensuring the survival and security of Israel and Arab allies, countering terrorism, promoting democracy, reducing refugee flows, and a balanced support for Israel, and push for broader regional stability. The solution that I think will end the conflict is the two-state solution. For Israelis, it is the only way to protect the country's Jewish identity. It would create peace, as there would be fewer issues with the idea that one group has a better standing in society than the other, maintains the equality of negotiating process for both sides. Israel would benefit from increased investment with new trading opportunities. Cost implications for the international community, like the US and Europe, would continue to provide financial and political support to Israel and the Palestinians. Funding could be used to relocate settlers in the West Bank. We must encourage relations to Israel from foreign countries. Peace. As the world strives for peace, must remember to advocate for the needs of people surrounding us. Our leadership actions reflect on the future of the earth and impact the existence of resources, historical landmarks, and the well-being of all people. These are two quotes, famous quotes. The first one is from Mahatma Gandhi. "Palestine belongs to the Arabs in the same sense that England belongs to the English, or France belongs to the French." The second one is that the Arab-Israeli conflict is also in many ways a conflict about status. It's a war between two peoples who fought deeply humiliated by each other, and who want the other to respect them. Battles over status can be even more intractable than those over land or water or oil. These are my references. Thank you for watching.